Finally, how long you've been asking me to give my take on the top three boots. Top three boot makers. What do we have? Whites, Nicks, and I'm adding into the mix a very small, obscure company, Adams, because I think that they're on par with them. Oh man, the reason why I haven't done this video is because I needed to put some hours on the new Nicks boots. Because I have lots of experience with whites as a wildland firefighter. I have lots of experience with the Nicks. I've had those for some time now, wore them through fire season. Also, I needed to get the Nicks through a fire season as well. And in the winter, I needed the full 4-season treatment before I could really talk about them. Because, to be honest with you, these Nicks boots have been murder to break in. But oh, how sweet they are now. It was worth the wait, I can tell you that. So, I don't know why the whole boot thing is so controversial. Man, I get some venom spewed at me, and usually the people that have the most to say about it are guys that have never worn these high-end custom-made boots. All sorts of accusations. You're elitist, and that's the most foolish thing anyone could ever do. Spend $500-600 on a pair of custom-made boots. You know what? One guy, one of the worst, that I was having some conversation was back and forth and telling me what an idiot I was, and there's no difference between the boots. And what type of a moron would spend that type of money, and I don't have that type of money to buy on boots, and you're saying that that I'm not a man if I don't buy these things. I didn't say any of that, nor did I imply that. The question that I asked him is, I said, how many guns do you have? He's like, well, what? Why? I said, I'm just asking, just curious. Well, how many guns do you have? Well, I don't know. I've got like 15. Okay, well, that's where your priority is. So this guy that was going on and said how ridiculous it was to spend $500 on a pair of custom-made boots had 15 guns. Now, if he wants to have 15 guns, that's no problem. But don't come and tell me what or those of us who know the difference. And by the way, this guy had never worn these type of boots. How much we don't know and how foolish we are, elitist we are, because we choose to spend our money on something that we're going to be in all the time. I mean, when you think about it, how often are you going to shoot those 15 guns? When you amateurize that out. Did I use that word correctly? Sometimes my vocabulary outruns my education. But the point is, are you a working man? Are you working men like myself? Have you considered or you thought about having a pair of custom-made boots in, and you look at the price and you just choke? I get that. I understand it. But good grief, how much time are you spending in those boots? And you're talking about something that is a tremendous investment. And I'm going to show you here, a little as we get into the video, what the investment is. You're not paying more for these boots in the long run than your Walmart boots. You're simply paying it in advance. And I would venture to say that you're going to pay less money, but you're paying it in advance. But you have the ability, you have the joy of having a boot that you can rely upon, that is absolutely, without a doubt, the most comfortable thing you've ever worn, and on and on and on. So don't comment on these boots if you've never worn them, because that is the height of stupidity. It would be like me commenting and doing a YouTube video on criticizing on how horrible your bed is. It's too soft, it's too hard, it's too lumpy, whatever it is, having never slept in it. I mean, would my criticism carry much weight? Would my criticism mean anything to anyone? Would it be helpful? It would not. So don't comment negatively, don't criticize, because you don't have anything to say about it. You don't know what you're talking about, and man, I've got to be in my bonnet on this. So we're kind of getting away from the whole boot thing. We'll get to it. Enough. So I think I made my point. All right, so let's go with the first. I don't have, well, I kind of do. Don't have a pair of whites here. I've had many pair, and I can tell you that whites are great boots. Great. I've worn them on fires for many seasons. We're going to go into the Nicks here. So, as you know, the Nicks he's a small one-man boot maker that custom made these boots for me to my specifications, and you all know that I have loved them very much. They have some wonderful features that I even like better than the Nicks boots, but they also have some shortcomings that I don't find on the Knicks boots or the whites. So what I like about these boots is these are probably the most comfortable boots I've ever worn. Very soft, very pliable, not suitable for fire, I have found out. And the reason is it's not the design of the boot, it's not the lacing or the fit or anything, but it's in the sole. I don't believe I don't remember. I don't remember when I was speccing this boot out, when I was talking to Adam, if I told him that I was going to wear them on the Wildland Fire, but I think that I did, but I don't remember. But I think what it is I think that it takes years and years and years to develop the materials and the know-how and the knowledge to make a sole that can hold up to that of all environments is the most demanding on boots. You're talking intense heat, you're talking steep angles, you're talking mountains, you're talking guys carrying heavy loads. I mean, you just couldn't demand more of a boot, short of walking on obsidian or lava rock, than you would on and I would say that it's the worst. What I found when things really get hot with my Knicks boots or with the Adams boots was the sole, the glue that was used inside of it. It gave way. It couldn't stand up to the heat. And there is a kind of a squeak pad if you watch the video that I did of the Knicks factory boots that they put in there, and it's just not up to snuff for fire. The glue got all squishy. I could feel everything coming loose inside. It started squeaking, and you can see that the sole is starting to separate a little bit here. The screws are backing out a little bit, and the inside leather, I'm not going to be able to show it right here. I had to put insoles in there, but the leather on the heel kind of came apart, and the heat, the boot didn't like the heat. The boot essentially started to deteriorate in the heat, and it became a problem. So I don't fault Adam on this, and I don't, for the guy that's not going to be on the fire ground, it's not a consideration. It's not, and I'm not candy coating it. I'm calling it like it is. It's if you're going to be using it as a work boot and you want a boot that's nimble and agile and light and super comfortable, then this is a wonderful boot, and it has held up very well. Things that I do like about it, of course, the fit is second to none, and I do love the pull straps. This is a far superior way to put, kind of the cowboy style, to put a boot on than your traditional pull tabs. These work. This is better. But overall, would I recommend a Knicks boot, or an Adams boot, custom-made boot? Absolutely, I would. Beautifully made. It's held up really well. I've used it hard, but not quite ready for prime time when it comes to extreme environments, i.e. the wildland fire ground. Also, the instep here, I could feel a lot of sharp rocks through it, and not to the point of bruising my feet, but certainly to the point where it was uncomfortable, especially with a heavy weight on. So, if you, let's say if you have ordered these, or if you have a pair coming, or if you are considering buying them and you want a lightweight, nimble, comfortable boot, absolutely. I couldn't recommend them more. They have been wonderful boots, but just know these things going into them. And be warned. So there you go. All right, on to the Knicks. First off, let me tell you a little story here. So, of course, I have very difficult feet to fit. The way the relationship between my calf and ankle and the way I'm built is it's a nightmare for boot makers. So they, as you know, I went to the factory, we spent the day with them. I had their very best fitting me for my boots. And this pair right here is the first one that showed up. And these were built off my original whites. So these are the white uppers, and this is kind of interesting. So this is a rough side out, a brand new Hot Shot. This is a Knicks Hot Shot boot here. You can see, never really been worn. They're just a little dirty and dusty. They've been sitting out on the shelf with my old whites upper. So again, these are the first ones that arrived. I don't know what happened. I don't know how this possibly happened, but they weren't even close to fitting me. They were almost a size too big. I mean, I there's no way I could wear this. I felt like I was sloshing around in my a little kid in my dad's work boots. I don't know what happened. I don't know if something got mixed up with the lasts. They sent me the wrong. I don't know how it happened. I'm surprised that it happened at all, but it did. That was the first pair that showed up. So, of course, I called. Called Steve, and man, they were on it. They absolutely took care of it. And of course, very shortly after that, the brand new pair of NYX Hot Shots showed up, which you have right here, and they were perfect, absolutely perfect in every way. The fit. I mean, I can't. I just don't know what happened. They don't know what happened. It was just one of those things, and I don't fault them for it. But you know, I'm keeping it real here. That's what happened, and to their credit, they completely sorted it out. So, what's it been like living with these? Okay, so I started wearing them in the early summer, and I didn't wear them on the first half of the fire season that I was on because I couldn't get them broke in. I mean, they were really, really tough to break in because they're just a tough boot. Then once I got them broke in, I started having some problems with my Adams. I said, well, you know what? I'm going to go on a week-long deployment. I don't trust the Adams boots on the fire ground. I'm afraid something's going to happen while I'm out there, and I'm going to really be in trouble. So I wore the NYX, and it was fine. A little bit of soreness because they were still breaking in, but once they warmed up, they all went well. But I can tell you, from being a guy that has, well, I've been wearing custom boots since the early 80s. Yeah, no, mid 80s or so. Wesco, Whites, Nicks, and Adams, and of course, Hateful Danners. So I know a lot about the Whites, and I've had 3 pair of Whites of Smoke Jumper is it Smoke Jumper Smoke Jumpers? I forget. It's their fire boot. Whites makes an excellent boot, no question about it. But I can tell you what, that these are better. The Nicks are better. They're burlier, they're tougher, they're harder to break in. They have, I think, an arch that is going to be more. It's going to be more acceptable to people. A lot of people have a problem with the arch on the Whites. I understand that the Whites bite. I've seen them both torn apart, and I would say if I was going to, all things being equal, I wouldn't hesitate to buy Nicks over the Whites. Just from if I just took the material alone, just how the arch is stacked up and built, that would almost be enough to persuade me. But I can tell you, this is a tougher boot. It's held up better. I mean, look how it's kept its shape. And this was on fires. I wear it every day around the household, and man, what a great boot it's been. Mrs. W has hers. She has an easy foot to fit, and I loved hers from the get-go. She hasn't never really had a break-in issue. But she hasn't worn them for long periods of time either. You know, she'd wear them in the garden for a couple hours. It wasn't like she was going out and having them on for 16, 18 hours like I was. But wow, what a great boot. Wonderful fit, wonderful feel, rock solid. You know, the thing that I guess the greatest testimony that I could give you is this. Is that I'll put these things, let's say I put them on at 6 o'clock in the morning and I'm on my feet all day. I'm working outside, maybe I'm working in the remodel, maybe whatever. I come home and I'm sitting and visiting with my family and having dinner. My boots aren't off, and I hadn't even thought about my feet. The greatest testimony to these boots is I don't think about them. Never is it a concern, is it even crossed my mind that I'm wearing boots? I mean, that is a powerful testimony of how comfortable they are. I mean, can you imagine those of you who wear cheap work boots and being in them all day to get home? I mean, what's the first thing you want to do? You can't wait to get out of them. But I don't even think about it. They seem to come off right before I go to bed. I think it's a powerful testimony. So I don't know. You know, I'm not going to get into all the technical aspects of it. I'm more interested in the philosophy behind it and the justification of purchasing the boots. Now, we talked about the expense, right? Okay, so let's take these rebuilds, for example. NYX will when they rebuild a boot, when you send it in, it's going to fluctuate a bit, but basically it's $200, right? So let's say you have an old worn out boot that's good quality. The only thing that they're using is this upper right here. This portion here, they'll use the back there. I'm sorry, I don't know all the terminology, the eyelets, all of that, the tongue, they'll reuse that. And this whole bottom of the boot is all brand new. That means a brand new sole, arches, everything. You're essentially getting a brand new boot because the upper doesn't receive a lot of wear. That rebuild let's say you spend $500, $550 on a brand new pair of boots, and you wear them, depends on how much you wear them, but you're probably going to wear them a couple years before you need not a rebuild, but a resole. So what they can do, they can usually resole these boots, meaning they're not replacing all of this. They're simply just taking the rubber off. They're taking the heel off. I don't know if they take the heel off. I think maybe they replace the cap. They might do a new stacked leather heel, which you see, not plastic, but real stacked leather. They're gorgeous. Just look at it. I mean, this speaks for itself, doesn't it? Anyway, the resole is going to cost you around $100. So every couple of years, you're going to have that, that $100 for a resole, and then maybe after 2 resoles, then you might be in for a full rebuild, which is going to cost you $200. So, what are you're going to pay what for a pair of Carolinas or for some cheap Chinese made boot, factory made boot? It's going to be what, in the 150, maybe even, I mean, people buy Danners, they think they're awesome, and they're getting up into $350 range, and many of them are terrible. They can't compare to something like this, but they don't miss the price very much for it. So to have a rebuildable boot, and the other nice thing is once they have your dimensions, if you ever want another pair of boots, you simply call them and they keep those lasts, that recipe that when they fit your boot, and they'll make you another one exactly the same. I mean, it really is a value, and it's a tool. It's a tool. I mean, how many of you guys you wouldn't think twice if you were a carpenter to spend $500-600 on a miter saw? Or if you were into electronics, you wouldn't think of for a moment of spending hundreds or thousands of dollars on testing equipment or plumbers or name whatever it is, software writer, computer guy. How much are you going to spend on your computer? Because it's a tool of your trade. It's something that makes you a living, something you need to have. Well, if you're on your feet all day, you're working for the railroad, or you're in the trades, or you work on the factory floor, or material handling, forklift, or if you're on concrete, you got to have something like this, because you're punishing your body, you're punishing your back. A poor quality boot is just not acceptable. I mean, these things are more of a tool, or more important than the very tools you're using with your hands, because it's attached to you the whole time, and you're in it and you're on it. 6 days a week? So I know it's a hard pill to swallow, but I'll just read the testimonies. I mean, I share the testimonies from guys that said, I would have never bought a boot like this, and they send along emails, and some of them have waited 6 months, 8 months to get their boots, and their boots show up, and I've never heard anyone say anything but just sing the praises of them. It's like, I wished I would have known about this 20 years ago. So it's not elitist to want to have good, proper footwear that keeps you safe and comfortable, and looks after your body and your feet, and makes your job and your everything easier. Especially if you've got other toys that don't bring that argument to me. Don't, especially if how many guys pay $150, $200 for a couple pocket knives or collect Benchmade knives? I mean, 3 knives you could essentially buy a pair of these boots, and you're not probably going to not lose these. So I'm passionate about it because I think it's important, and it's not elitist. And save your pennies. Sell a gun or two, whatever you have to do. If you haven't shot that gun in 3 years, you're probably not going to ever. So get yourself a boots, because you're going to spend a whole lot more time in those than you are going to be with trigger time on something that's sitting in the safe that's not doing you any good. So that's my rant. So what's my pick? 1, 2, 3. I would Nicks. Nicks are my favorite. That would be my go-to boot from here on out. Whites. I have the last pair of whites that I had. These here were wonderful boots. I really love them. I got good use out of them. They have sold to, I think, the parent company that owns Danner. Heard some rumblings in the wildland firefighting community that there may be some quality issues. I do not know about that. All I know is that I have had good luck with them. But I can tell you, they're not the boot. They're just, it's subtle. It's subtle. It's not a big difference. And it would be the type of thing, if you have ordered a pair of whites, you own a pair of whites, don't watch this video and be thinking, oh man, I got the wrong boots, I should have got the other ones. No, it's not. I mean, we're really splitting hairs when we get to this point. Both of them make fine boots, no question, including Adams. But I can tell you that these are, These are the big league here. These are absolutely the big league. Tradition, lots of tradition, hundreds, thousands, or thousands of millions, maybe of hours of guys using them. Lots of a proven track record on the fire ground. I mean, you just cannot. There isn't a finer boot. Not that I'm aware of. Maybe there's something in Europe. I can't speak to that. But as far as the American market, there just isn't a finer boot. And just look at the way it's held up. Look how rigid and stiff it is. The form, how it's held its form. And this, went through fires this year. I mean, it was really abused. And you start to see, just kind of see on the Adams again. It's a different boot. It's a lighter weight boot, but just not quite ready, especially in the sole department for extreme use. Great boot though for general duty, general purpose. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's my boot video, and let me know what you think. If you've purchased Whites or Westcos or Nicks or real good high quality handmade boots because of my reviews or things I've said, let me know in the comments and send me a private message. I always love to hear that feedback and see what you think, because I don't recommend this stuff lightly. I mean, I know what a sacrifice it is for to buy something like this, and I believe it's worth it, or I wouldn't be here saying it. So thanks for watching. We'll see you guys on the next video.